welcome back to my book corner for another story time with me, Rockin' Ryan, and happy Sunday to each and every single one of you. Now, I have chosen another story for today, and it is called Lula and the Sea Monster, and it's all about this little girl called Lula who's having to move house because people want to knock her house down and build a great big road called a highway. But before that happens, she meets a little friend who lives in the rock pool. Should we find out what happens? Let's turn on those listening ears, click, and get ready for today's story, Lula and the Sea Monster, written by Alex Latimer. Here we go. Lula lived in an old house on the beach with her parents. She loved it there, but it wasn't going to last much longer. In a few days' time, she and her family would have to move out. They had to sell their home to make way for a huge highway that would run all the way along the coast. Early one morning, Lula packed some sandwiches and took her bucket and spade and went for a long walk along the beach. She loved looking for things that had washed up on the sand, and she spent hours watching the animals that lived in the rock pools. This morning she noticed a tiny creature. It was hardly bigger than a bean, and a seagull was trying to snap it up in its beak. Lula chased the girl away. Then she scooped the scared creature up in her bucket. It curled around Lula's finger and seemed very happy to have been rescued. "Look how teeny tiny you are," said Lula. "Can I call you Bean?" Bean was too small to look after himself in the deep, wide ocean, so Lula searched for a bigger rock pool with plenty of rocks and crevices to hide from the girls, and she set him free there. "Are you hungry, Bean?" she asked, and without waiting for a reply, she opened her backpack and gave him some of her sandwich. Bean gobbled it up. Lump. "Oh, it's getting late, but I'll be back tomorrow," Lula told Bean as she walked home. Lula woke up early the next morning, made 3 extra sandwiches, and hurried along the beach to see her friend. But it wasn't a tiny creature she found in the pool. No, Bean had grown overnight, and now the pool he was in was too small. Lula scooped him up in her bucket, though he hardly fitted, and dragged him to a larger pool. Then she gave Bean all of the sandwiches she'd brought, even her own, and they played until sunset. The next day, Lula packed everything she could carry from the kitchen pantry. She stuffed it all in a bedsheet and dragged it along the shore. And she found that Bean had grown even bigger. My goodness me, it's all those sandwiches. So Lula used the food she'd bought to lure him to an extra large rock pool. And then she fed him all the things that she'd bought, and he ate everything. But as much as Lula loved Bean, she began to feel a terrible sadness. Just thinking about having to move house and leave Bean behind made Lula want to cry. So the next morning, she didn't visit him. Instead, she stayed at home and packed her things. But by lunchtime, Lula had worked up the courage to see her friend, and carrying a box of soups and pickles and potatoes, she set off along the sand. To her surprise, Bean was not there in the pool where she'd left him. Lula couldn't find him anywhere. She sat beside the empty rock pool for ages. Finally, it was moving day, and with it came the roar of bulldozers. Lula watched her mum and dad pack the last of their belongings into the car. They looked as sad as she felt. Lula, they called, it's time for us to go. But Lula wouldn't go. She couldn't. This was their home, and not just theirs. This stretch of beach was home to millions of little creatures far smaller than she was. So she marched down and she stood in front of the bulldozers. I'm not going anywhere, she shouted. The men in the bulldozers just laughed. I mean it, Lula yelled. But the bulldozers crept forward, puffing black smoke into the air. It was no use. Lula turned around to get one last look at her house. Do you know what she saw? She saw her friend, bigger now than 10 elephants, curled around her house, the way he'd curled around her finger the first day they'd met. Quite suddenly, the men in their bulldozers stopped laughing, turned around and raced away. Lula still lives in her house with her parents, and there is no highway on the beach. Of course, the bulldozers came back 3 more times, actually, but each time Bean chased them away. Lula walks along the sand every day, looking for interesting things and animals that need looking after, and most days Bean swims along in the shallows, and they couldn't be happier. The end. That's a nice story, isn't it? I love going to the beach. I love going to the seaside. And as soon as all these horrible germs have gone, that's the first thing that I want to do is go to the beach and go into the rock pools and look at the crabs and the starfish and the shells, and I can pick them and have a good look at them with my magnifying glass. Sounds like a good plan, doesn't it? So maybe when all this is over, just like Lula, we can pop down and celebrate all those little creatures that you find on the beach. But before that, I think we need a little sleep, don't we? So let's all close our eyes. No snoring. And I will see you back here tomorrow for Monday's story in my book corner with me, Rockin' Ryan. But until then, bye-bye, and I'll see you next time.